Yehovah Eloheinu Tzvaot. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Please fill me with the Ruach HaKodesh, that I may speak your written words with boldness to those who listen. I ask all these things in Yeshua HaMashiach's name. Amen. We'll start with the Shema. Listen and obey. Children of Yehovah, pay careful attention and respond. Yehovah is our power and authority. Yehovah works in unity with himself, and you shall act upon your love to Yehovah with your power and authority, with your thoughts in mind, with your entire body, with all the muchness that you have. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Hand, behold, nail, behold. Leviticus chapter 25. Yehovah spoke to Moshe on Mount Sinai. He said, "Tell the people of Israel, when you enter the land I am giving you, the land itself is to observe a Shabbat rest for Yehovah. 6 years you will sow your field. 6 years you will prune your grapevines and gather their produce. But in the 7th year is to be a Shabbat of complete rest for the land, a Shabbat for Yehovah. You will neither sow your field nor prune your grapevines. You are not to harvest what grows by itself from the seeds left by your previous harvest. And you are not to gather the grapes of your untended vine. It is to be a year of complete rest for the land. But what the land produces during the year of Shabbat will be food for you all. You, your servant, your maid, your employee, anyone living near you, your livestock and your wild animals on your land, everything the land produces may be used for food. You are to count 7 Shabbats of years, 7 times 7 years, that is 49 years. Then on the 10th day of the 7th month, on Yom Kippur, you are to sound a blast on the shofar. You are to sound the shofar all through your land. And you are to consecrate the 50th year, proclaiming freedom throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It will be a yovel for you. You will return everyone to the land he owns, and everyone is to return to his family. That 50th year will be a yovel, Jubilee, for you. In that year you are not to sow, harvest what grows by itself, or gathers the grapes of untended vines, because it is a yovel. It will be holy for you. Whatever the fields produce, you will be food for you. In this year of yovel, every one of you is to return to the land he owns. If you sell anything to your neighbor or buy anything from him, neither of you is to exploit the other. Rather, you are to take into account the number of years after the yovel. When you buy land from your neighbor, and he is to sell it to you according to the number of years, crops will be raised. If the number of years remaining is large, you will raise the price. If few years remain, you will lower it, because what he is really selling you is the number of crops to be produced. Thus you are not to take advantage of each other, but you are to fear your God. For I am Yehovah, your God. Rather, you are to keep my regulations and rulings and act accordingly. If you do, you will live securely in the land. The land will yield its produce, and you will eat until you have enough, and you will live there securely. If you ask, if you aren't allowed to sow seed or harvest what our land produces, what are we going to eat in the 7th year? Then I will order my blessing on you during the 6th year, so that the land brings forth enough produce for all 3 years. The 8th year you will sow seed, but eat the old, stored produce until the 9th year, that is, until the produce of the 8th year comes in. You will eat the old, stored food. Land is not to be sold in perpetuity, because the land belongs to me. You are only foreigners and temporary residents with me. Therefore, when you sell your property, you must include the right of redemption. That is, if one of you becomes poor and sells some of his property, his next of kin can come and buy it back when his relative sold. If the seller has no one to redeem it, but becomes rich enough to redeem it himself, he will calculate the number of years the land was sold for, refund the excess to its buyer, and return to his property. If he hasn't sufficient means to get it back himself, Then when he is sold, will remain in the hands of the buyer until the year of Yovel. In the Yovel, the buyer will vacate it and seller return to his property. If someone sells a dwelling in a walled city, he has 1 year after the date of sale in which to redeem it. For a full year he will have the right of redemption. But if he has not redeemed the dwelling in the walled city within the year, then title in perpetuity passes to the buyer through all his generations. It will not revert in the Yovel. However, houses and villages not surrounded by walls are to be dealt with like the fields in the countryside. They will be redeemed before the Yovel, and they revert in the Yovel. Concerning the cities of the Levi'im, the houses of the cities they possess, the Levi'im are to have a permanent right of redemption. If someone purchases a house from one of the Levi'im, then the house he sold in the city which he owns property will still revert to him in the Yovel. Because the houses and the cities of the Levi'im are the tribe's possession among the people of Israel, the fields of the open land around their cities may not be sold, because there is a permanent possession. If a member of your people has become poor so that he can't support himself among you, you are to assist him as you would a foreigner or a temporary resident, so that he can continue living with you. Do not charge him interest or otherwise profit from him, but fear your God, so that your brother can continue living with you. Do not take interest from you when you loan him money or take profit when you sell him food. I am Yehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt in order to give you the land of the Canaan and be your God. If a member of your people has become poor among you and sells himself to you, do not make him do the work of a slave. Rather, you are to treat him like an employee or a tenant. He will work for you until the year of Yovel. Then he will leave you, and he and his children with him will return to his family and regain possession of his ancestral land. For they are my slaves, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. Therefore, they are not to be sold as slaves. Do not treat them harshly, but fear your God. Concerning the men and women you have as slaves, you are to buy men and women slaves from the nations surrounding you. You may also buy the children of the foreigners living with you and members of their families born in your land. You may own these. You may also bequeath them to your children to own. From these groups you may take your slaves forever. But as far as your brothers, the people of Israel, are concerned, and you are not to treat each other harshly. If a foreigner living with you has grown rich, and a member of your people has become poor and sells himself to the foreigner living with you as a member of the foreigner's family, he may redeem after he has been sold. One of his brothers may redeem him, or his uncle, or his uncle's son may redeem him, or any near relative of his may redeem him. Or, if he becomes rich, he may redeem himself. He will calculate the person who bought him at the time for the year he sold himself to him in the year of the Yovel. And the amount to be paid will be according to the number of years, and at that time the employee's wage. If many years remain according to them, he will refund the amount of his redemption from the amount he was bought for. If there remain only a few years until the year of Yovel, then he will calculate with him according to the years he will refund the amount of redemption. He will be like a worker hired year by year. You will see to it that he is not treated harshly. If he has not been redeemed by any of these procedures, nevertheless, he will go free in the year of Yovel, he and his children with him. For to me the people of Israel are slaves. They are my slaves, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. I am Yehovah, your God. How can we learn to love our Creator after reading this interesting chapter 25 of Leviticus? We can listen to the written words of Yehovah. We can share the written words of Yehovah with his children. Observe Shabbat for rest. Know that the days of Moshe, the land was given rest every 7 years, a Shabbat year. Know that the children of Israel had to prepare food for years of life with no going to the local grocery store. Know that every 50th year is a Yovel, a Jubilee. In this 50th year, everyone returns to the land he owns. Fear Yehovah, for he is Yehovah. Keep his regulations and rulings, and be holy, set apart. That the land belongs to Yehovah. Trust that the land belongs to Yehovah. Redemption. The action of regaining or gaining possession of something in exchange for payment or clearing a debt. Fear Yehovah. Do not make a brother or sister a slave even if they sell themselves to you. Instead, employ them and treat them fairly. Fear Yehovah. How can we love others as Yeshua loves us? We can teach others to fear Yehovah, how to find rest. Bear one another's burdens. We can fear Yehovah as an example to others to follow and find rest. Produce spiritual fruit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, and self-control. In this beautiful Friday night Shabbat with the Arianic blessing using the name. Yehovah will kneel before you presenting gifts, and he will guard you with a hedge of protection. Yehovah will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, bringing order, and he will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yehovah will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon you and will set in place all you need to be whole and complete. Yavirachacha Yehovah, Vayishmircha Yair, Yehovah panav elecha, vechunicha Yisa, Yehovah panav elecha, vayisem dicha shalom. May Yehovah bless you and keep you. May Yehovah make his face shine on you and show you his favor. May Yehovah lift up his face toward you and give you peace. Shabbat shalom.